The dust of Terminus 7 tasted like metal and death. Deho wiped his visor for the third time that hour, squinting at the excavation site below. The dead planet had no atmosphere worth mentioning, just thin wisps of gas that couldn't stop the radiation from its dying red sun. His team had been digging here for 2 months, finding nothing but rocks and disappointment. "We should pack it up," Taman said over the radio. The engineer kicked at a boulder, sending it tumbling down the crater wall in the weak gravity. "This planet is as empty as my bank account." Minji laughed from somewhere deeper in the dig site. "Give it one more day. The scans showed something metallic down here, something big." Deho agreed with her, though he couldn't explain why. Something about this place felt different. The other archaeologists on the expedition had already left for more promising sites. Only his small team remained, stubborn or stupid enough to keep searching. The Galactic Coalition didn't care much about human archaeology teams. Humanity had joined the greater galaxy only 60 years ago, and most alien species still treated them like children playing with adult tools. The Coalition gave Earth the leftover dig sites, the planets already picked clean by Kryn and Vexari explorers centuries ago. "I'm reading something," Minji called out suddenly. Her voice went sharp with excitement. 15 meters down. "It's not natural. Deho, you need to see this." Deho made his way down the crater carefully. The gravity was low enough that one wrong step could send him flying. When he reached Minji, she was standing at the edge of a new hole, her equipment beeping frantically. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "That," Minji pointed down into the darkness. Deho turned on his helmet spotlight. The beam cut through the gloom and hit something that made his breath catch. Black. Perfectly black. Not the black of shadow or space, but something that seemed to swallow light itself. The surface was smooth as glass and stretched far beyond what his light could reach. "How big is it?" Taman had joined them, his engineer's curiosity overriding his earlier complaints. "The scans say it goes down at least 200 meters, Minji said. "And it's not rock. It's manufactured. This is a ship." "That's impossible," Taman breathed. Nothing this old could survive intact, but there it was, impossible or not. Deho felt his heart beating faster. A ship this deep, this preserved, meant it was ancient beyond measure, older than the Coalition, older than any civilization currently known. "We need to report this," Minji said, but she didn't sound like she wanted to. Reporting meant the Coalition would take over. It meant humans would be pushed aside again. "Let's confirm what it is first," Deho said. "We have a few hours before the next check-in." They spent those hours carefully excavating around the hull. The ship didn't look like anything Deho had seen in the databases. No seams, no windows, no obvious doors. Just that perfect black surface that seemed to drink in their lights. "Try touching it," Taman suggested. "Maybe it'll respond to contact." Deho knew it was probably stupid. Ancient alien technology could be dangerous. But his hands were already moving, removing his glove before anyone could stop him. The moment his bare skin touched the black surface, everything changed. The ship woke up. Light exploded across the hull in patterns that hurt to look at. Symbols and languages Deho had never seen flowed like water across the black surface. He tried to pull his hand away but couldn't. Something was holding him there, not physically but mentally. There was a presence in his mind, vast and old and curious. "Deho!" Minji was shouting, but her voice sounded distant. The presence spoke, not in words but in concepts that translated themselves directly into understanding. It was asking questions. "What are you? Where are your masters? Why do you burn so bright with chaos?" Deho didn't know how to answer something speaking directly into his thoughts. He just thought back as clearly as he could. "I'm human. I have no masters. I don't understand what you mean by chaos." The presence seemed surprised. "Human." The ship tasted the word like something new and strange. "You are young, so terribly young. But you have the gift. You have the chaos we need." Then the presence released him, and Deho fell backward into Taman's arms. The symbols on the hull faded but didn't disappear completely. They pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "What just happened?" Taman demanded. "It's alive," Deho gasped. "The ship is alive. Or something inside it is." Before anyone could respond, their radios crackled. "Human team, this is Coalition Overseer Velthar. We detected an energy surge at your location. Report immediately." Minji and Taman looked at Deho. He made a decision that would change everything. "We found something. Something big." Within hours, the dig site transformed into a military operation. Coalition ships filled the sky. Troops and scientists swarmed the crater. Ambassador Velthar arrived personally, his 3 eyes gleaming with greed as he studied the black hull. Velthar was Kryn, a species that had ruled the Coalition for thousands of years. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and a manner that made it clear he thought humans were barely worth his time. "You have done well," Velthar said to Deho, though his tone suggested he meant the opposite. "The Coalition will take custody of this vessel. Your team will receive a small finder's fee." "We discovered it," Deho said. "We should be part of the research team." Velthar's laugh was like breaking glass. "Humans are not qualified to study something of this magnitude. You barely understand your own technology." The ambassador approached the hull with several Kryn scientists. They placed their hands on the surface just as Deho had. Nothing happened. They tried scanning equipment. Still nothing. The ship remained dark and silent. "Perhaps it requires a specific touch sequence," one scientist suggested. They tried everything for 3 hours. Different pressures, different materials, different electromagnetic frequencies. The ship ignored all of it. Velthar's frustration grew with each failure. "You," he finally pointed at Deho. "Touch it again." Deho walked to the hull with every Coalition scientist watching. The moment his hand made contact, the ship blazed to life again. Symbols flowed, light pulsed, and that vast presence returned to his mind, stronger this time. "Captain," the ship said, and the word carried weight that made Deho's knees weak. "I have been waiting for you, for your kind. The Chaos Bringers, the impossible ones." "What are you?" Deho whispered aloud. "I am the Harbinger, last vessel of the progenitors. I have slept for 50,000 years, waiting for a species worthy of my purpose. The ordered ones cannot command me. Only those who embrace beautiful chaos may take the captain's chair." "Why me?" Deho asked. "Because you are human. Because your species refuses to be predictable. Because when the great silence comes again, only chaos can stand against it." Around Deho, the Coalition scientists were shouting, trying to understand what was happening. Velthar demanded answers, but Deho could barely hear them. The ship was showing him things. Images of civilizations that rose and fell millions of years ago. Wars fought across dimensions, and something else, something dark and hungry that waited at the edge of reality. The Harbinger pulsed one more time, then went silent except for Deho's touch. The message was clear to everyone watching. The ancient vessel had chosen its captain, and no amount of Coalition authority could change that fact. Velthar stared at Deho with something between fury and fear. "This changes nothing," the ambassador said. "The ship will be secured. We will find a way to access it properly." But Deho knew better. Everything had changed. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again, and somehow, he had just become responsible for something that might determine the fate of every living thing in the universe. The Harbinger waited in the dust of a dead world, patient and eternal, for its captain to accept his destiny. The Coalition Council chamber orbited a dead star, a massive station where the galaxy's most powerful species made their decisions. Deho had never imagined he would stand here, but circumstances had a way of ignoring what people imagined. 3 days had passed since the Harbinger woke up. 3 days of arguments, scans, and increasingly desperate attempts by Coalition scientists to access the ship without Deho. Nothing worked. The vessel responded to him alone, and that reality terrified the galaxy's rulers. "This is unprecedented," High Arbiter Kelmoth said from his floating throne. The Arbiter was Vexari, a species that looked like living crystal. His voice chimed like bells. "A progenitor vessel. We thought they were myths." "They're real enough," said Captain Jiwan. She stood beside Deho in full military dress, representing Earth's interests. Humanity had few enough champions in the Coalition, and Jiwan was fierce enough to make up for it. "And the ship chose a human captain. That's not our fault." "It is a mistake," Velthar insisted. "Humans are too young, too reckless. Give us time and we will determine how to properly interface with the vessel." "You've had 72 hours, Jiwan shot back. "Face it, the ship doesn't want you." The council chamber erupted in arguing voices. Deho stood silently, trying to process everything that had happened. The Harbinger hadn't spoken to him again since that first contact, but he could feel it at the edge of his thoughts, waiting and watching. A new voice cut through the chaos. "Perhaps we're asking the wrong questions." The speaker was Hyun, a Carrick scientist known for actually treating humans with respect. His species looked almost human except for the silver skin and lack of hair. The progenitors seeded life across the galaxy. Every species here owes their existence to them. If their vessel chose humans, maybe we should ask why instead of fighting about it. An excellent suggestion, Kelmoth said. Human Daiho, you will board the vessel. Hyun will accompany you with scanning equipment. We will learn what we can. And if the ship rejects Hyun? Daiho asked. Then you go alone. The Harbinger had been moved to a secure dock on the station, surrounded by enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Daiho walked toward it with Hyun and Jiwon flanking him. Coalition guards watched their every step. Up close, the ship was even more impressive. It had taken the form of a massive triangle, each edge sharp enough to cut space itself. The black hull still pulsed with those strange symbols, slower now, almost like breathing. Ready? Daiho asked Hyun. As ready as I'll ever be to meet something 50,000 years old, Hyun replied. Daiho placed his hand on the hull. The response was immediate. A doorway opened in the perfect surface, light spilling out in colors that didn't quite exist. The presence returned to his mind stronger than before. Welcome, Captain. Bring your companion if you wish. He carries less order than most. It says you can come, Daiho told Hyun. It speaks to you. Hyun's scientific curiosity warred with his caution. What does it sound like? Like thoughts that aren't mine but somehow are. It's hard to explain. They stepped through the doorway together. Jiwon tried to follow, but the entrance sealed itself behind them. Inside, the Harbinger was nothing like any ship Daiho had seen. The corridors seemed to shift as they walked, adjusting to their presence. The walls showed images of space, but space as seen from dimensions humans didn't have names for. This is incredible, Hyun whispered, his equipment beeping frantically as it tried to catalog impossibilities. The presence guided Daiho deeper into the ship. They passed chambers filled with technology that made Hyun gasp, rooms that seemed larger on the inside than they should be, and finally reached what could only be the bridge. It was a sphere of pure light. In the center floated a chair that looked grown rather than built, all organic curves and crystalline structures. The moment Daiho saw it, he knew. That was the captain's chair. That was where his destiny waited. You want me to sit there? He asked the presence. Yes. But understand, Captain, to command me is to change. I am not merely a ship. I am a living extension of the progenitor's will. To bond with me is to bond with their legacy. You will gain much. You will also lose much. Your body will change. Your mind will expand. You will no longer be fully human. Daiho felt cold fear settle in his stomach. What if I refuse? Then I wait for another. But know this. The darkness is coming, the silence that destroyed the progenitors. It feeds on order, on predictability. Your species has chaos in your blood. You adapt. You improvise. You refuse to follow patterns. That is why I chose you. That is why only you can stop what's coming. How long do we have? Daiho asked. Years, decades, perhaps a century. But it will come. It always comes when civilizations grow too bright. Hyun was watching Daiho talk to empty air. What's it saying? He asked quietly. Daiho explained everything. The silence. The progenitors. The choice he had to make. Hyun listened without interrupting, his silver face thoughtful. If what you're saying is true, Hyun said slowly, then this isn't just about you. It's about every living thing in the galaxy. I know. But you're scared. Terrified. Hyun smiled. Good, that means you're thinking clearly. But Daiho, I've studied the progenitors my whole life. They weren't conquerors or tyrants. Every record we have shows they wanted life to flourish. If their last vessel chose you, I don't think it's a mistake. Daiho looked at the chair, at the destiny waiting for him. He thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who didn't know their entire species was being judged by his next decision. He thought about the galaxy full of species who looked down on humanity, but would need humanity's chaos to survive. If I do this, Daiho said to the ship, I want my team with me, Minji and Taemin. They were there when you woke up. They deserve to be part of this, the present seemed to consider. Your companion Hyun has already proven himself worthy. Yes, bring your chaos-touched friends. I have systems for them. Not captains, but essential. Every ship needs more than one mind. Daiho sat in the chair. The pain was instant and absolute. His nervous system lit up like fire. The Harbinger poured itself into him, rewriting his biology at the cellular level. He screamed, distantly aware of Hyun shouting for help. But the ship wouldn't stop. Couldn't stop. The bonding had begun. Daeho saw the birth of stars, the death of galaxies, wars fought with weapons that unmade reality, the progenitors in their glory, beings of pure thought and energy, their desperate flight from the silence, their last hope, planted in the genetic code of a dozen young species, the chaos seeds they had called them. Species designed to break patterns, to be unpredictable, to be the antithesis of everything the silence could consume. And among all those seeded species, humanity had thrived the most. Humans who refused to specialize, who adapted to every environment, who turned war into art and art into war. Beautiful, chaotic, impossible humans. The pain faded. Daeho opened eyes that could now see wavelengths beyond the normal spectrum. His body was changed. Not dramatically, not obviously, but on a level that went deeper than flesh. He was connected to the Harbinger now. He could feel its systems like his own limbs. Its weapons like his own hands. Daeho? Hyun's voice was worried. I'm okay, Daeho said, and was surprised to find it true. I'm more than okay. I'm the captain. Outside the ship, alarms were blaring. The coalition fleet had moved into attack positions, worried about what was happening inside. Daeho could sense every ship, every weapon pointed at them. The Harbinger showed him how easy it would be to disable them all. One thought, and he could shut down their engines. Another thought, and their weapons would turn to slag. Stand down, Daeho commanded, speaking through the Harbinger's communication systems to every coalition ship at once. I am Captain Daeho of the Harbinger. I mean you no harm, but I will not be threatened. I will not be controlled. This ship chose me and I accept that responsibility. Send my crew. Minji and Taemin. They have a choice to make. High Arbiter Kelmoth's voice came through, chiming with barely controlled fear. You cannot simply claim a progenitor vessel. I'm not claiming it. It claimed me. But I'll prove humanity deserves this. Give me a mission. Something impossible. We'll show you what chaos can accomplish. There was a long silence. Then Jiwon's voice, proud and fierce. I'll hold them to that promise, Captain. Don't make me regret supporting you. Minji and Taemin were brought to the ship within the hour. They both said yes to the bonding. The Harbinger welcomed them to its systems, changing them as it had changed Daeho, but in different ways. Minji became the ship's voice, able to communicate across dimensions. Taemin merged with the engineering systems, understanding technology that shouldn't exist. The three of them stood on the bridge of a ship older than mountains, ready to prove that humanity could be trusted with power beyond measure. The galaxy watched and wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. The distress call came at 0400 station time. Daeho was on the Harbinger's bridge, learning to navigate the ship's systems while Minji and Taemin slept in quarters that adjusted themselves to their dreams. The message was simple and desperate. This is Epsilon Reach Mining Colony. We are under attack. Automated weapon systems. They appeared 3 hours ago. They're not shooting to disable, they're shooting to kill. Coalition fleet is retreating. I repeat, Coalition fleet is retreating. If anyone can hear this, we have 6,000 civilians with nowhere to run. Daeho felt the Harbinger's interest spike. These weapons, I know them. They are progenitor-made devourers. They should not be active. Something is wrong. Can we help them? Daeho asked. We are equipped to help. The question is whether you are. Daeho didn't hesitate. He opened communications to the Coalition station. This is the Harbinger. We're responding to the Epsilon Reach distress call. Negative, came Velthar's voice immediately. You are untested. This crisis requires experienced commanders. Your experienced commanders are running away, Daeho shot back. Those people are dying. We can be there in 20 minutes. You have no crew, no support. You're 3 people on an ancient ship you barely understand. Then I guess we better learn fast. Daeho cut the channel and activated the ship-wide communication. Minji, Taemin, wake up. We have our first mission. They arrived at Epsilon Reach to find chaos. The mining colony orbited a gas giant, a collection of habitats and processing stations connected by thin bridges. 3 massive machines were tearing through the structures, each one a nightmare of weapons and armor. They looked like metallic spiders, all legs and guns. The Coalition fleet was holding position 300,000 kilometers away. Safe. Useless. Captain Jiwon is with the fleet, Minji reported from her station. She's arguing with the fleet commander, demanding they help. They won't, Taemin said grimly. Those things already took out 2 coalition destroyers. Nobody wants to lose more ships. Deho could feel the Harbinger analyzing the Devourers, recognizing its own kind. These are defense systems, built to protect progenitor facilities, but their targeting protocols have failed. They see all life as a threat. How do we stop them? Deho asked. The Harbinger showed him weapon systems that made nuclear bombs look like children's toys, guns that could tear holes in space, missiles that existed in multiple dimensions at once, shields that could turn entire stars aside. That seems excessive, Deho muttered. You asked how to stop them. I showed you how to destroy them. Stopping is different. More difficult. Can we talk to them? Perhaps if we can get close enough. If you can think like a progenitor, one of the Devourers noticed them. It turned its weapons toward the Harbinger, and Deho felt the incoming fire-like pressure against his skin. The ship's shields activated automatically, turning aside blasts that could have cracked a planet. Okay, Deho said. Let's try communication first. Minji, can you broadcast on progenitor frequencies? I think so. The ship is helping me understand the language. It's strange. It's like math and music had a baby. Just try to tell them we're friendly, Minji sang. That was the only way Deho could describe it. Her voice came out in harmonics that shouldn't be possible for human vocal cords, speaking in mathematics and emotion simultaneously. The message was simple. We are progenitor touched. Stand down. The Devourers ignored her. They continued firing on the colony and the Harbinger. Another habitat exploded, scattering bodies into space. They're not listening, Minji said, frustrated, because they cannot hear reason. Their fear protocols have overridden everything else. They believe they are under attack. They believe they are protecting something. Protecting what? Deho asked. There's nothing here but miners. The Harbinger showed him scans of the gas giant below. Deep in the atmosphere, buried in storms that could swallow Earth, was something ancient. A progenitor facility, still active, still important. They think the colony is trying to reach the facility. They think the coalition fleet is an invasion force. They are doing their duty, protecting what they were built to protect. Then we show them the truth, Deho said. An idea was forming, crazy and dangerous. Taman, can you take control of the colony's communication systems? Probably. Why? Because we're going to give the Devourers a bigger problem than miners to worry about. Deho explained his plan. Minji looked shocked. Taman laughed like Deho had lost his mind. The Harbinger pulsed with what might have been approval. This is chaos thinking. This is why I chose humans. They moved fast. The Harbinger descended toward the gas giant, shield screaming under the pressure. The Devourers followed, sensing a threat to the facility they protected. Taman hacked into the colony systems and broadcast a fake message on progenitor frequencies, claiming the Harbinger was an invader from outside the galaxy. The Devourers believed it. Their attention shifted from the helpless colony to the ship that actually posed a threat. All 3 machines converged on the Harbinger with every weapon blazing. Now comes the hard part, Deho said. Minji, while they're distracted, I need you to reach the facility below. See if you can access their command protocols. You want me to what? That's inside a gas giant. The Harbinger can protect you. It can create a smaller ship, a shuttle. You'll be safe. Safe is relative, Minji muttered, but she was already moving. The ship grew a smaller version of itself, a teardrop of black that detached and dove toward the storms below. Deho focused on not dying. The Devourers were relentless, their weapons ancient but still deadly. The Harbinger danced through their fire, moving in ways that ignored physics. It wasn't trying to destroy them. Just keep them busy. Their patterns are predictable, Taman said, watching the tactical display. They attack in coordinated waves. 3-second intervals. They're following a program. Everything follows a program, Deho said. Everything except humans. He stopped dodging in patterns, started moving randomly. Left when logic said right, up when tactics demanded down. The Harbinger followed his instincts, breaking every rule of space combat. The Devourers couldn't adapt. They were built to counter strategies, to predict movements based on logic. Deho's chaos confused them. Their hit percentage dropped from 90% to 40% to 10%. Minji, how's it going down there? Deho asked. Her voice came back broken by static and strain. I found it. The facility. It's a research station. The Devourers are protecting experiments that ended 50,000 years ago. I'm trying to update their mission parameters, but the security is intense. Can the Harbinger help? I can, but you must trust me completely. Give me full control for 30 seconds. Deho hesitated. Giving up control went against every instinct. But Minji was in danger. The colony was running out of time. Sometimes you had to trust the chaos. Do it, he said. The Harbinger moved like lightning. It broadcast directly into the facility's core systems, using progenitor authorization codes that bypassed 50,000 years of security. It rewrote the Devourer's mission in real time, updating their threat database, showing them the Coalition wasn't an invasion force, and the miners weren't trying to steal progenitor secrets. The Devourers stopped firing. They hung in space, processing new information, reconciling current reality with ancient orders. Finally, they transmitted a response. Mission parameters updated. No hostile intent detected. Resuming defensive posture. Apologies for collateral damage. Did they just apologize? Taman asked in disbelief. They're machines with 50,000 years of programming, Deho said. Probably got a lot of regrets built up. Minji returned from the gas giant, shaken but triumphant. The colony survivors were already transmitting thanks. The Coalition fleet finally moved in, not to help but to secure the area now that the danger had passed. Captain Jiwan's face appeared on their display. She was grinning. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Fighting 3 Devourer-class weapons platforms by dancing around them randomly. It worked, Deho said. It worked, Jiwan agreed. The Coalition brass is furious. You made their retreat look cowardly. But the civilians you saved are calling you heroes. Humanity's stock just went up considerably. Belthar's voice cut in sharp with anger. You recklessly endangered yourself and violated a progenitor facility. I saved 6,000 people, Deho countered. And I updated ancient security protocols that were killing civilians. You're welcome. This changes nothing. You are still unproven. But Belthar was wrong. Everything had changed. The galaxy had watched a human captain and his tiny crew succeed where the Coalition's finest had failed. They had fought with chaos instead of order, with intuition instead of protocol. The Harbinger was pleased. This is only the beginning, Captain. You are learning. Your species is learning. When the silence comes, this is what will save you. Not bigger guns or stronger shields, but the willingness to break every rule and trust in beautiful chaos. What about the Devourers? Deho asked. What do we do with them? They are updating their systems, learning about the current galaxy. In time, they may become allies, or at least they will not attack civilians again. Deho looked at his crew. Minji was exhausted but smiling. Taman was already cataloging everything they had learned. They had survived their first real test. The Harbinger set course back to Coalition space, its captain and crew more confident, more bonded. Behind them, 3 ancient weapons platforms took up new positions around the research facility, silent guardians of secrets that might matter again someday. The galaxy's power brokers had wanted the humans to fail. Instead, they had proven that humanity deserved the Harbinger, deserved a seat at the table, and somewhere in the dark between stars, something vast and hungry took notice of the Chaos Bringers and began moving toward them with terrible purpose. The coordinates came from the Devourers. 3 weeks after the Epsilon Reach incident, the ancient machines transmitted a location deep in the Veil Nebula. The message was simple. You need to see this. You need to understand. Deho stood on the bridge of the Harbinger studying the star charts. The nebula was unmapped territory, too dense with radiation for normal ships, but the Harbinger wasn't normal. It could be a trap, Taman said. He had grown more cautious since bonding with the ship's systems. Understanding progenitor technology meant understanding how easily it could kill. The Devourers had plenty of chances to kill us, Minji countered. They're trying to help. Deho agreed with Minji. The Devourers had seemed almost grateful after being freed from their broken programming. They had been guarding that research facility for 50,000 years, unable to adapt, unable to stop attacking anything that came close. The Harbinger had given them clarity. We go, Deho decided. But we bring backup this time. Backup meant the human fleet. In the weeks since Epsilon Reach, more ships from Earth had arrived. Captain Jiwan now commanded a small task force, 20 vessels ranging from destroyers to science ships. Humanity was flexing its growing confidence. They also brought Somin, a historian who specialized in dead languages. She was young, brilliant, and fascinated by everything progenitor. Deho had requested her specifically. If they were going to find answers, they needed someone who could read them. The journey into the Veil Nebula took 2 days. The deeper they went, the stranger space became. Stars appeared in colors that didn't exist in normal space. Time itself seemed to flow differently, faster in some areas, slower in others. This is a progenitor construct, the Harbinger explained. They shaped this space deliberately, made it hostile to normal matter. Hidden from normal eyes, what were they hiding? Someone asked. She was on the Harbinger's bridge, eyes wide with wonder at everything around her. We will see. At the nebula's heart, they found the archive. It was a sphere of pure crystal, large as a moon floating in space that shouldn't exist. Data flowed through it like blood through veins, millions of years of information preserved perfectly. That's impossible, Soman breathed. That much data storage would require energy outputs that could power galaxies. The progenitors did not think in terms of possible and impossible. They thought in terms of necessary and unnecessary. The Harbinger docked with the archive, merging with its systems. Information flooded through Deho's mind. Too much, too fast. He would have drowned in it if the ship hadn't filtered, organized, made sense of chaos. What he learned changed everything. The progenitors hadn't been one species. They had been many, united by a common purpose. They had seeded life across the universe, guided evolution, prevented extinction events. They had been gardeners tending reality itself. But something had noticed them. Something that existed outside normal space, feeding on civilizations that grew too advanced. The files called it the Silence. It was both entity and force, intelligence and entropy. It existed to maintain balance, preventing any species from growing powerful enough to threaten reality's structure. The progenitors had tried to fight it. The archive showed wars that spanned dimensions, weapons that could unmake galaxies. But the Silence couldn't be defeated through force. It fed on complexity, on order, on the patterns that advanced civilizations created. The more organized you were, the easier it was for the Silence to predict and consume you. So the progenitors ran. They ascended to a higher plane of existence where the Silence couldn't follow. But before leaving, they planted seeds, species designed with chaos in their genetic code. Unpredictable, adaptive, impossible to fully understand or anticipate. They made us weapons, Deho said, horrified and awed. No, the Harbinger corrected. They gave you tools. Every species they seeded received the chaos gift. But most suppressed it, evolved toward order because order felt safer. Only a few species kept their chaos strong. Humans, the Ricks, the Wanderers. A dozen others across the universe. You are not weapons. You are hope. The Silence is coming back, Somin said quietly. She was reading the data streams, her historian's mind making connections. That's what the Devourers were trying to warn about. It's been dormant for 50,000 years, but advanced civilizations are waking it up again. The Harbinger confirmed her analysis. The coalition has grown too large, too organized. Their very success draws the Silence's attention. It will arrive within your lifetime, perhaps within a decade. We need to tell them, Minji said. The coalition needs to know. They won't believe us, Taman argued. An ancient threat nobody's seen? They'll think we're trying to gain power. Deho knew Taman was right. But they had to try. He opened communications to the fleet. Jiwan, we need to contact Coalition Command. Priority Alpha. What did you find? Jiwan asked. The end of everything unless we can stop it. The message went out. The Coalition Council convened an emergency session. Deho presented the archive's data, Soman translating the progenitor records. The council chamber was silent as they learned the truth. High Arbiter Kelmoth spoke first, his crystal form flickering with distress. If what you say is true, we must prepare defenses. Mobilize fleets, build weapons. No, Deho said firmly. That's exactly what will make it worse. The Silence feeds on military order. The bigger your fleet, the easier it is to consume. We can't fight it with traditional warfare. Then how do we fight it? Velthar demanded. With chaos, with unpredictability, with strategies that don't follow patterns. You mean with humans? Velthar said accusingly. I mean with every species that kept their chaos. Humans are good at it. But we're not the only ones. Yun stepped forward. The Carricks have studied this possibility. We have analyzed human tactics in hundreds of scenarios. There's a reason humans win battles they should lose. They don't follow the rules. They adapt in ways our computers can't predict. "This is madness," one of the council members said. "A Brel commander, all armor and military precision. You want us to abandon proven strategies in favor of random chance?" "Not random," Soman interjected. "Controlled chaos, it's different. Humans have been doing it for thousands of years, from ancient battle tactics to modern innovation. The key is having enough order to function, but enough chaos to remain unpredictable." The debate raged for hours. The council split into factions. Some wanted to prepare defenses, some wanted to hide. Some thought the threat was exaggerated. Then the first report came in. A colony at the galactic rim had gone silent, not destroyed. Silent. Like someone had erased it from existence. "Send a scout ship," Kelmuth ordered. The scout ship found nothing. The colony was gone. The star system was gone. In its place was emptiness that hurt to look at. Space that had forgotten how to exist. "The silence is already here," Deho said quietly. Panic spread through the council. Orders were given, fleets mobilized, defensive lines established. Everything the silence would expect. Everything that made them easier to find. Only Velthar seemed to understand. The ambassador's three eyes focused on Deho with something that might have been respect. "You want to lead the defense," he said. "I want to give you a chance to survive," Deho corrected. "The Harbinger was built for this, but one ship isn't enough. We need a fleet that can fight without patterns. We need commanders who think like humans." "You want us to trust humanity with the galaxy's defense," Kelmuth said. "I want you to trust chaos when order has failed you," Deho replied. Before the council could answer, Captain Jiwan transmitted an urgent message. "Deho, you need to see this. Commander Huan just arrived from Earth with 40 more ships, but that's not the important part. He brought plans. Earth has been building vessels based on progenitor designs. They're not as advanced as the Harbinger, but they're close." Earth had no access to progenitor technology, Velthar said suspiciously. "Earth has archaeologists," Jiwan replied. "We've been finding fragments of progenitor tech for decades. We've been studying it, adapting it. We knew someday we'd need an edge in galactic politics. Turns out we were preparing for something bigger." Deho felt pride and concern war in his chest. Humanity was rising fast, too fast for some. Velthar looked like he had swallowed something bitter. "The Coalition should have been informed," the ambassador said. "The Coalition treats us like children," Jiwan shot back. "Children don't get respect by asking permission. They get it by proving they're capable." The argument was cut short by another alert. 3 more colonies had gone silent. The silence was spreading, eating reality itself. Time for debate was over. "We need a strategy," Kelmuth said, his bell voice tight with fear. "Now." Deho looked at Minji and Taman, at Soman analyzing data frantically, at Jiwan ready for battle, at Commander Huan and the Earth Fleet, humanity's finest ready to fight. "I have a strategy," Deho said. "But you're not going to like it. We need to make the galaxy too chaotic for the silence to digest. We need to break every military protocol, abandon defensive lines, turn warfare into art, make every battle unique, unpredictable, impossible to anticipate." "You want controlled chaos across an entire galaxy," Hyun said slowly. "That's never been attempted." "Neither has fighting an entity that eats reality," Deho replied. "But humans are good at attempting the impossible. We've built our entire civilization on it." The council voted, not unanimously, not confidently, but they voted yes. Humanity would lead the defense against the silence. The Harbinger would coordinate a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had seen. As the meeting ended and preparations began, Velthar approached Deho privately. "If you fail," the ambassador said quietly, "it won't just be humans who pay the price." "If we fail," Deho replied, "there won't be anyone left to blame." The ancient progenitor archive pulsed with its endless data, recording everything for civilizations that might come after. The Harbinger prepared for war, and at the edge of the galaxy, the silence continued its advance, patient and inevitable as entropy itself. The silence arrived like a storm made of nothing. It spread across the outer rim, turning stars cold and planets into memories. Deho watched from the Harbinger's bridge as entire systems vanished from sensors, not destroyed, erased, as if they had never existed. 70 colonies gone, Minji reported, her voice tight with horror. Population estimate 2 billion souls. 2 billion. The number was too large to process. Deho forced himself to focus. Grief could come later. Right now, people needed him to think. The defense fleet assembled at the Callus Nexus, a strategic junction where 3 major trade routes met. 200 coalition warships, 40 human vessels including Commander Juan's task force, and the Harbinger, floating at the center like a black star. Defensive positions established, came the report from a Kryn battle coordinator. All ships in formation, Delta 7. Weapons charged. Shields at maximum. Negative, Deho transmitted to the entire fleet. Break formation. I repeat, break formation. Scatter across 3 light years. No patterns. No predictable positions. That's suicide, the coordinator protested. We lose all tactical cohesion. Tactical cohesion is what it hunts, Deho replied. The moment we form up in military formations, the silence can predict us. Can consume us. We need to be random. Random isn't a strategy. It is against an enemy that feeds on strategy. Captain Jiwan backed him up. All human vessels break formation. Follow the Harbinger's lead. Everyone else your choice. Die in formation or take a chance on chaos. One by one, ships broke ranks. Not all of them. The older coalition commanders couldn't abandon lifetimes of military training. But enough ships scattered that the neat defensive formation dissolved into apparent disorder. Now what? Commander Juan asked. He commanded a destroyer called the Soul's Pride, positioned 15,000 kilometers from the Harbinger. Now we wait for it to arrive, Deho said. And when it does, we fight like humans. We improvise. The silence came at dawn, though dawn meant nothing in deep space. It manifested as a wave of darkness that made black holes look bright. Space itself bent around it. Time running backward in some areas, forward in others. It was impossible to look at directly. The eye couldn't focus on it. The mind couldn't accept it, and it brought servants. The Herald came first, a massive vessel that might have been a ship or might have been alive. It looked like something had taken a coalition battlecruiser and corrupted it, twisted it into angles that shouldn't exist. That was the Zenith, Hyun transmitted from his science vessel, a Vexari flagship that vanished 3 weeks ago. The silence has turned it into something else. The Herald opened fire. Its weapons weren't lasers or missiles. They were probability itself weaponized. Ships hit by its beams simply stopped existing. Not destroyed. Removed from reality like mistakes erased from paper. Evasive maneuvers, Deho commanded. But don't follow any pattern dance. Make it impossible to predict where you'll be. The human ships obeyed instantly. Years of training in non-standard tactics paid off. They moved like birds in a flock, each one independent but somehow coordinated. The Herald's weapons missed more often than they hit. The coalition ships that had maintained formation died first. The silence swept over them like a tide, and they simply weren't anymore. Gone, forgotten. All ships, Deho transmitted. Target the Herald. But don't coordinate fire. Shoot whenever you want, wherever you want. Make every attack unique. It went against every principle of military doctrine, but it worked. The Herald couldn't predict when or where attacks would come. Its defenses couldn't adapt to randomness. Weapons fire from 50 different ships all acting independently began to wear it down. The main silence wave is still advancing, Minji warned. It's heading for the Nexus junction. If it reaches there, it can spread to 100 more systems. Then we stop it here, Deho said. He felt the Harbinger's agreement, its weapons systems coming online. Soman, what did the archive say about fighting the silence directly? Soman was on one of the human science vessels, still analyzing progenitor data. The progenitors couldn't destroy it. They could only confuse it, make themselves too chaotic to easily digest. The silence needs patterns to consume. Without patterns, it starves. So we give it indigestion, Taman said from engineering. I like it. Deho formed a plan. Crazy, desperate. The kind of plan that would get him court-martialed in any normal military. Perfect. All ships with probability shields move to these coordinates. He transmitted positions that formed no recognizable pattern. Ships with conventional shields here. Weapons platforms scatter through this region. Civilian transports that refuse to evacuate, I need you in these impossible positions. You're using civilian ships as bait? Felthar demanded from his command ship. I'm using every piece on the board, Deho replied. The silence sees organized threats. Civilian ships don't register as military. It won't prioritize them. That unpredictability is our advantage. That's insane. That's human. The fleet scattered across space in patterns that weren't patterns. Military doctrine said you concentrated force. Deho spread it thin. Tactics said you protected your weak points. Deho put civilian ships in critical positions. Every rule was broken. Every expectation defied. The silence advanced into the chaos and hesitated. Just for a moment. But that moment was enough. Now, Deho commanded, hit it with everything. 200 ships opened fire at once. Weapons from a dozen species, each operating on different principles. Missiles that traveled through normal space. Beams that went through alternate dimensions. Projectiles that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously. There was no coordination. No targeting solutions. Just controlled chaos. The silence reeled. It was used to consuming organized fleets, not scattered madness. Every attack came from an unexpected angle. Every weapon behaved differently. It couldn't adapt fast enough. But it was learning. The Herald moved to protect the main silence mass. Its corrupted weapons firing faster. More ships vanished. The Soul's pride took a hit and went silent. Its crew erased from existence. Commander Juan with them. We're losing, Jiwan said, her voice strained. It's adapting to our chaos. Then we need more chaos, Deho replied. He made a decision that would haunt him forever. Minji, Taemin, I need you to do something for me. They knew what he was going to ask before he said it. The Harbinger had secondary systems, stations designed for crew members who bonded with the ship. Those systems could be overloaded, transformed into weapons, but doing so would kill whoever was bonded to them. No, Minji said immediately. There has to be another way. There isn't. The silence is too strong, but if we can create a probability cascade, a feedback loop of pure chaos, we can hurt it badly enough that it retreats. It'll kill us, Taemin said quietly. I know, I'm sorry. But 2 lives for billions, Sujin's voice cut in. She was the medical officer, rarely speaking during combat. Not 2 lives, 4. I'm bonded to life support systems. And Youngji is on navigation. We can all overload together, make the cascade 4 times stronger. Sujin, no, Deho said. You don't have to. Yes, we do, Youngji interrupted. This is what the Harbinger was built for. What we were chosen for. To stop the silence. Captain, you have to survive. You're the only one who can truly command this ship. Let us be the weapons. Deho felt tears he couldn't shed. The bonding process had changed his body, made crying impossible. But the grief was real. These were his crew. His friends. I'll remember you, he promised. The galaxy will remember you. Just win, Minji said. That's all we want. They triggered the overload together. The Harbinger's secondary systems went critical, pouring impossible amounts of energy into a single unified pulse. Probability itself became a weapon, a wave of pure chaos that hit the silence like a hammer. The entity screamed, not in sound but in reality itself twisting. It recoiled, unable to process what had hit it. The Herald shattered, its corrupted mass coming apart. The main silence wave began to retreat, pulling back toward the galactic rim. Minji, Taemin, Sujin, and Youngji died instantly. Their bodies didn't even remain. They had transformed themselves into pure energy, becoming part of the weapon that saved everyone else. The remaining fleet pursued the silence as it fled, driving it back system by system. The battle raged for 3 more hours, but the tide had turned. Humanity's chaos had wounded something ancient and terrible. When it was over, 80 ships remained out of 200. Billions had been saved, but millions had died. The silence retreated beyond the galactic rim, wounded but not destroyed. It would return someday, but not today. Deho stood alone on the Harbinger's bridge, feeling the empty spaces where his crew had been. The ship mourned with him, its systems dimmed in respect. Captain, Jiwan's voice was gentle. The Coalition is calling you. They want to know what happens now. What happened now was simple and terrible. Deho had become something more than human, bonded to a ship that would never let him go. His crew had sacrificed themselves. Earth had proven its worth in blood. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Tell them, Deho said quietly, that humanity accepts the responsibility. We'll guard the rim. We'll watch for the silence's return. And we'll be ready. You're staying out here? Jiwan asked. The Harbinger was built to fight this war. So was I, apparently. Someone has to watch. Someone has to be ready when it comes back. Then Earth will send more ships, more captains. You won't face this alone. No, Deho agreed. Never alone. He looked at the stars, at the vast galaxy that had rejected humanity for so long. They had proven themselves now, proven that chaos had value, that unpredictability could save lives, that sometimes the youngest species held the answers the oldest couldn't find. The Harbinger set course for the rim, its captain and crew reduced but not defeated. Behind them, the galaxy began to rebuild. Ahead of them, the darkness waited for its next chance. But Deho had learned something the Silence hadn't expected. Humans didn't just survive chaos. They thrived in it. They turned it into art, into strategy, into hope. And as long as one human held the Harbinger's captain's chair, the Silence would find the galaxy too chaotic to easily consume. He thought of Minji's last words. Just win. So simple. So human. I will, he promised the empty bridge, the lost crew, the watching stars. We will. The Harbinger sailed into the dark between galaxies, a black star carrying humanity's gift to the cosmos, the courage to embrace beautiful, impossible, life-saving chaos. And in that moment, Deho understood why the progenitors had chosen humanity, not because they were strong or wise or advanced, but because when faced with impossible odds, when every rule said to give up, humans looked at the universe and said one simple word: no. The galaxy had learned to respect that word, and the Silence had learned to fear it. The war was won. The legend had begun, and Captain Deho of the Harbinger stood eternal watch, guardian of chaos, defender of possibility, proof that humanity deserved its place among the stars.